Madam Attorney General, yesterday, Erez Ruveni filed a whistleblower complaint against the Department of Justice. As I think you know, he was a 15-year veteran of the Department of Justice. He received commendations during the first Trump administration for all his work at DOJ, but he filed a detailed account of his recent experience at the Department of Justice, saying that prior to his determination, that he was terminated after he refused to sign an appeal brief that was unsupported by evidence or the law. And he says, "I didn't sign up to lie." In response to his termination, you made a statement on Fox News a little while ago saying, "At my direction, every Department of Justice attorney is required to zealously advocate on behalf of the United States, and that any attorney who fails to abide by this direction will face consequences." So, General Bondi, I guess the direct question is, he says he was fired because he didn't want to make an untruthful statement to a court of law. I have two questions. Number one, I assume you agree that zealous advocacy does not mean telling untruths to courts of law. And second, if that's not the case, what did you mean by saying he was not a zealous advocate?
Senator Van Hollen, this is all pending litigation, as you're well aware, and the timing of it, I can't discuss pending litigation. This is a whistleblower lawsuit pending within my office, but I will say the timing of it I find suspect, as he takes hits at Emil Bovee, who is one of the best human beings I know, one of the smartest, brilliant men I know, who will soon become a federal judge. And his hearing happens to be today, and I find the irony of the timing of it pretty remarkable, the lawsuit. But this had to do with attorney-client privilege information that was disclosed. I can't talk about the substance, but what I will tell you, and you have obviously my word, any zealous advocacy means to be done ethically and honestly, always. And that's what I mean by zealous advocacy. He also accused Emil Bovee of things that Todd Blanche, who is one of the best human beings I also know, my Deputy Attorney General, was in the room and said did not happen. But again, I wish I could get into greater detail. I can't because it's pending. But I stand by Emil Bovee and I stand by Todd Blanche every day, and I always will.
Well, Madam Attorney General, I will say that his account seems to have lots of information. So as you say, this will obviously be something that's litigated or reviewed through due process procedures. But I have to say that it's very, very disturbing. We've also heard from others in other departments who are responsible for implementing the laws of the United States that they feel uncomfortable about having been asked to do things that they thought were unethical. Let me go on to some of the budget questions. I really want to follow up on my colleagues, Senator Moran and Senator Collins. But the DOJ grant funding is being sort of cut back on two fronts. One, in April, the department terminated hundreds of grant awards, notifying grantees that their current grant funds were gone, effective immediately. That included, law enforcement training grants, technical assistance awards, some dating back to fiscal year, I think, 2017. So question number one is, are you going to be releasing those funds? The second concern regarding grants has to do with the monies that were appropriated in this fiscal year, in March. And my understanding is that DOJ is withholding an overwhelming number of notices of funding opportunities, NOFOs, meaning that grantees who rely on these grants, including many who provide services to victims of crimes, are literally in some cases running out of money. For example, the department's biggest grant-making component, the Office of Justice Programs, has only posted one notice for fiscal year 25, NOFO notice. So if you could answer the question with respect to both those pieces.
Sure, and that's a very valid question, Senator. The notices will be going out in coming weeks about the grants. And we did cut grants by 6%, and I'm here to tell every senator, if we did cut a grant that you care about that is specific to your state, please contact me. I've turned on grants that were cut off. So please, if that happens, there's an appeal process, but you can pick up the phone and you can call me, and I would be more than happy to look at that. I never want to take away a grant that is actually helping Americans, helping victims, helping law enforcement, and we're looking at it on a case-by-case basis, and many of those are being appealed already, but you have my word, we will look at all of those, absolutely.
Thank you. And in terms of the other piece of the question, when the notices for information will go out, because the fiscal year obviously is, running out, and we are hearing from lots of entities that are waiting for those notices so they can apply for the grant funding.
Yeah, yes, Senator. The notice of funding is consistent with our priorities, and they're finalizing it right now. It will be going out very shortly.
Very shortly. All right. Thank you.
It'll be posted on a rolling basis, too, I believe.
Okay. If you could just keep us posted on that. And I would appreciate it, Madam Attorney General, if you could have your team or respond to a letter that about 30 senators wrote to you on this topic of the prior fiscal year funds that were frozen.
I will make sure they look at that letter. I think we've received probably thousands of letters.
You've gotten lots of letters. But we really do need, in order to do our job, to get responses. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chris Van Hollen didn't come to play politics in this hearing. He came to draw a line in the sand. Because what you just witnessed wasn't simply about a personnel dispute inside the Department of Justice. It was about whether truth still has a place in America's legal system. Think about what this whistleblower, Arez Ruvani, actually did. 15 years at the DOJ, commendations for his service, a career built on public trust, and then one day he's asked to sign off on a legal brief that he says wasn't backed by facts, a document he believed would mislead the court. And when he refused, he was fired. His exact words were, "I didn't sign up to lie." That sentence alone should stop everyone in their tracks. Because at its core, the Justice Department is supposed to be built on one unshakable principle: tell the truth, no matter who's in power. When that foundation starts to crack, when truth becomes negotiable, you don't just lose a case, you lose the credibility of the entire system. And that's why Van Hollen's questioning hit so hard. He wasn't just asking legal questions, he was forcing Pam Bondi to confront a moral one. What does zealous advocacy really mean? Does it mean standing up for justice or standing by your boss? Bondi tried to dodge the question, hiding behind pending litigation. But listen closely to her tone and what she chose to defend. She didn't defend the whistleblower's integrity. She defended her deputies, the very people accused of wrongdoing, calling them the best human beings I know. That might sound loyal, but it's not what the country needs from its top law enforcement officer. The job isn't to protect your friends, it's to protect the truth, and that's where the real problem lies. Because what this exchange revealed is a culture inside Bondi's Justice Department that treats ethical resistance as disloyalty. When a 15-year veteran gets punished for telling the truth, that sends a chilling message to every other lawyer, investigator, and staffer. Stay quiet or lose your career. It's not just about one case. It's about whether the Justice Department itself can still be trusted to act independently, or whether it's being turned into a political enforcement arm. And then, as if to prove the point, Van Hollen pivoted to the DOJ's grant freezes, funds that support law enforcement training, victim services, and community safety. These are programs that save lives and protect communities every single day. And yet, Bondi's department suddenly cut or withheld hundreds of grants, many without explanation. That's not just bureaucracy, that's power being used as leverage. Because when you start controlling which programs live or die, which communities get help and which don't, that's no longer about justice. It's about control. And when you combine that with the culture of fear and retaliation that whistleblowers are describing, you start to see a pattern, one where the DOJ becomes less about serving the law and more about serving the powerful. Van Hollen's calm persistence here mattered. He didn't shout, he didn't grandstand, he asked clear, focused questions that exposed something Bondi couldn't disguise, a fundamental misunderstanding of what justice is supposed to mean. Her evasions told the story more powerfully than any confession could. Because when a nominee for Attorney General can't say plainly that lying to a court is wrong, when she dismisses whistleblower claims as suspect timing, and when she cuts vital public safety programs while promising senators she'll take their phone calls, that's not leadership. That's political damage control. And yet, there's something deeply human at the heart of this. Whistleblowers like Arez Ruvani are the conscience of government. They're the ones who step forward when the system's ethics fail. And instead of being celebrated, they're often punished, made examples of, so others stay silent. It's a painful irony that in a department meant to enforce the law, truth-tellers are the ones treated like traitors. Van Hollen gave voice to that quiet outrage, the kind that comes not from partisanship, but from principle. He wasn't fighting for one man. He was fighting for the idea that the truth must still matter, even when it's inconvenient, even when it threatens those in power. And that's something every viewer should take away from this hearing. The fight for an honest justice system doesn't happen in headlines. It happens in these moments, where senators demand answers, where whistleblowers refuse to lie, and where the people watching, you, decide to pay attention. Because if we stop paying attention, corruption doesn't vanish, it multiplies. Silence is how power wins. That's why hearings like this matter. That's why Van Hollen's questions cut so deep. And that's why it's not enough to watch. You've got to stay informed and keep demanding better. If you believe the Justice Department should answer to the truth, not to whoever's sitting in the Oval Office, make sure this story gets seen. Subscribe to Liberal Lens, share this video, and help keep real oversight alive. Because democracy only survives when people refuse to look away.